Sometimes the simple things are not inferior to the complex ones. Sometimes you can take the easy way and you'll find that you still get there just as quickly, just as well as the person who did it the hard way. This isn't to say that we should never put out any effort, or that we should be obsessed with cutting corners. But as we try to get value out of our lives, it is important to judge things not on a basis of how we're conditioned to perceive them, but rather on the basis of their intrinsic value to us. We should judge things on a basis of the value that they bring into our lives. I remember once on a Black Friday that I purchased a very cheaply made coffee machine for less than $5. I continued to use that coffee machine for years after that day, and it continued to work just fine. At least twice, the glass carafe cracked from the heat and I replaced the pot, but continued to use the machine. It would seem that the coffee machine was poorly made, and yet the truth for me was that it worked just as well as any expensive model ever would, and lasted just as long too. So was it really a low quality product? It's kind of hard to say it is, considering that it made coffee for me for years and cost me less than $5. As we contemplate the things we'd like to do in our lives, there are many different ways that we could go about fulfilling our needs. If we look to what others would suggest we should do, the solutions to our problems will always be a bit more on the expensive side. But if we let go of those external factors and we just contemplate what we truly need in our lives to be able to do the things we want to accomplish, we'll find that the cost may be much less than what we think. You might imagine that you need a reasonably new car because the social expectation is that you should want to have a new car. But if you're simply considering what the minimum is that you need to be able to go where you need to go and comfortably accomplish the travel needs you have, an older vehicle, which might come almost free, may do the job just fine. Or you might even discover that you don't need to have a vehicle at all. Sometimes we do need to spend sizable sums of money to acquire things which we need for a specific purpose, to a specific end. But certainly life becomes much simpler, cheaper, and happier when we learn to stop spending money to fuel our ego and the perception of others. Certainly, there is value in elegance of function, but there is also truth in the fact that not everything needs to be curated and purchased at top dollar. It might have been an old bookcase that doesn't quite match, or a piece of furniture that was purchased at bottom dollar from a discounter or a thrift store. But in the end, it's not really the quality of a shelf that matters as much as it is the value of what is put on the shelf, or the nature of the table you're sitting at, which matters as much as what happens while you're sitting there. Sometimes the $50 solution is just as practically useful as the $200 one. Sometimes things don't need to be perfect because they're only used occasionally and lightly. The more we learn to take only what we need, the more we will find that we always have an abundance of more than we could ever want. And That leads me to the topic of patience. Just as not everything must be perfect, it is also true that not everything must happen all at once. Sometimes the greatest reward of a project is seeing the gradual progression as it makes its way from infancy to maturity. It is a reward in itself to thoroughly and one step at a time, with humble beginnings and modesty, to organically evolve toward a finished product. When we fall into the trap of feeling like we need to dabble in everything, finish everything right away, accomplish everything right now, so that we can reach a point of completion, we may miss the virtue of the journey itself, the value of small things added over time, and good things which, in abundance, more than make up for the occasional lack of perfection. That each day be a day in which you do something which is interesting, something which progresses your character forward, something which gives you cause to look forward to something ahead. That is enough. But also, rest each day with the assurance that a traditional approach, which is slow and patient, quite often will ultimately pay better dividends than that which rushes forth hurriedly with exasperation. So in all things, let us have patience as we run the race before us, and let us be moderate in our passions and our tastes, and the things which we purchase and the things that we chase after. Let us make a point to live our lives happily and comfortably, but not for the sake of someone else. Let us simply take what we need each day and give thanks for our daily bread. Thank you for watching.